conventional fertiliser, and I think you'll find it will come away for you nicely.
You've been doing some research on fruit fly. You know a bit about it, Heidi.
Well, we've just been having quite a few calls this weekend about fruit fly in stone fruit.
Yeah.
So just to be sure of how to treat it, you need to double bag the fruit, so not putting it into the green waste bin. To kill the larvae, you can leave the fruit in bags sitting in the hot sun for sort of 5 to 7 days and sort of boil them alive. You can boil them in the microwave, but probably the easiest way is just double bag into your bin, not into your green waste bin. There's also, if you're unsure at all, there's a fruit fly hotline that you can call, and that number is 1300 666 010.
Okay, what's that number again?
1300 666 010.
Zero. Okay,
Yeah.
the fruit fly hotline.
Fruit fly hotline.
Graham, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Darren and Heidi. I've got some geraniums from hydrangeas, and I want to know when I can do the cuttings. And also, I've got some tomatoes that they've got flower buds on them, things, but they're just dying off. I don't know what to do. And I wish you both a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well.
Oh, thanks, Graham. Same to you. Now, geranium cuttings, you can do them pretty much any day of the year, Graham. They will grow quite easily from cuttings, so you can, go knock yourself out with those ones. Also, hydrangea cuttings will be quite successful once that new growth has hardened off a little bit. So we're sort of getting to that stage now, but probably the best time to do them is during the winter months when you're clipping them, pruning them back late autumn through the winter. You can save some of those clippings and they'll grow very easily as cuttings. But they're pretty, both of those are nice and easy to grow.
Thanks, Graham. To Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Darren and Heidi. All the best for Happy New Year and Christmas. I have a lemon tree, and I feed it with power feed, but there's a lot of green leaves, but no flowers for the fruit to come.
Green leaves and no flowers. Now, Chris, is it in a pot or in the garden?
It's in the garden.
Okay, and is it? Have you given it any fertiliser this season?
I've given it a little bit of the Power Feed Pro series.
Power feed.
How often do I have to put them in?
Well, Power Feed's great for your lemons. So that's a liquid fertiliser that you can apply. You can apply it fortnightly or at least once a month. But considering, Chris, it's in the garden, Power Feed is a great top-up. But to use a slow-release fertiliser, you can just apply it once or twice a year, and then all your feeding is sort of sorted for you. I would recommend searching out Harry's Citrus Food. You'll get that at any good nursery, and that really is the best for your lemon tree. Which suburb are you in, Chris?
In Airport West.
Airport West. Maybe you might do a little drive into Essendon, just down along the Maribyrnong River, and you'll be able to get it at Poynton.
I did say that.
Poynton.
Yeah.
Great nursery to
They've been there for 100 years.
100 years.
Yeah.
And a fabulous nursery. So, search that one out, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. An email has arrived from Julie. Now, Julie often calls me on her way to hospital. She does some fantastic work, and we have a good chat, Jules and I. She's in bed with laryngitis. Get well soon, Julie.
Oh.
But she writes, can you help? Ask Heidi. I'm listening from bed, and I bought 6 white Pascal standard roses and planted them, and they came out hot pink. The person I brought them from were fabulous and replaced them. But when can I change it over? And the new one in the pot will be okay until then. So she's asking, can she rip the old one out and put the new one in?
Well, you can certainly plant the new one. Roses, we have them. We actually sell many more roses potted than we do in the winter months these days. So like any other plant, you can plant them any time of the year. But you would just, if you wanted to transfer the other pink roses, you might wait until a cool spell. It's not an ideal time to do it. Winter would be best. But, gardening, you can break the rules. So just prune it back hard. Make sure you take plenty of soil with it when you move it, and keep it well washed afterwards.
John, good morning.
Oh, morning. It's a great morning, isn't it? I'm the tree project, and we've got a Christmas call out for our volunteer growers. I wonder if your lovely listeners might be able to help us there.
Did you get that, Heidi?
It's a bit of a bad line, John.
You're a volunteer with who?
It's a tree project. The organisation is called Tree Project.
Tree Project, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And what was the next bit?
We're looking for a Christmas present. We're looking for some volunteer growers with native species. So what we do is we take seeds in country Victoria, we bring them into Melbourne and other regional centres, and then people grow these grow seedlings in their backyard in 7 boxes, and then they're sent out to the countryside for planting. So for
Okay.
replantation.
Sort of like foster parents for plants.
That's right, or training a guide dog.
Yeah, that sounds really good, John.
Right, so we've just been going for 30 years, but for some reason this year we're just a bit short of growers.
Of growers.
Okay.
So you nurture them and look after them till they get to a replantable stage, and then hand them back.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
I like that.
Never thought of that before, but that's a lovely way to
Shame
do
it's
it.
a terrible phone line.
And people get great joy from it, of course, because they get the seeds and you propagate some seeds and they sort of come up to, depending on the various species, different heights, but the seedling height, and then take it back out, and then sort of you can go back and look, 10 years later and see where your
And there's your
seedlings have
tree.
been.
There's your tree. How do people get involved, John?
It's just Tree Project, one word. If you Google Tree Project,
No.
you'll find it.
Oh, hang on.
That's
Tree Project,
So
one word, is
Google
it?
Tree Project, all one word. Yeah.
You know space. If you put a space in, you get a million responses, but if you leave the space out, you're fine.
Tree
So we're just going to say a little bit short this year, but yeah, so that would be fabulous to do that if we could get some of your lovely guys. Not everyone's grown natives. You do get the full training material, so you get the full kits, the boxes, the potting mix, and some training to go with it as well. And you find once people start, they often come back here.
Does it say on the website, sowing the seeds for a sustainable future, returning healthy,
Yeah.
sustainable and indigenous ecosystems to the Victorian landscape?
Wow, that's it. Thank you.
That's it. So Tree Project, no space.
No space.
Just put that in the thing.
And jump on and be a volunteer tree grower.
Yeah.
It's a really good thing to do.
Shout yourself a new phone for Christmas, John. Appalling. 5 to 8.
At Target, get 25% off women's swimwear. Hurry, offer ends Sunday, December 22. Target all the way. T's and C's apply. See in-store and online for details.
At ENS, take your entertaining to the next level this festive season with great savings on big brand dishwashers, like a Westinghouse freestanding dishwasher, only $5.99, and save $800 on an extra large ASCO dishwasher, just $21.99. We'll deliver, install, and recycle your old appliance in one visit from only $129. So order now for delivery before Christmas, and we won't be beaten on price. Shop in store or online and get value the ENS way. Sale today. Terms and apply.
Melbourne is your city.
These are your stories.
9 News with Alicia Loxley. That is your news?
And Tom Steinford. The news that matters to you. Returns Sunday, January 12.
Ladybird, what have you seen?
What have I seen at Garden World? Oh, a nursery filled with thousands of plants, a shop especially for collectors, a licensed cafe perfect for grabbing a coffee, a hydroponics shop, pond and water feature experts, and beautiful display gardens. What will you see at Garden World? Find out at Springvale Road, Braeside, open 9 till 5, 7 days a week, or gardenworld.com.au.
For a limited time only, at Domain. Save up to 40% off a huge range of selected indoor furniture. Now's the time to save up to 40% off dining tables, chairs, coffee tables, and more. Relax in luxurious comfort and style. And save up to 40% off fabric lounges, leather lounges, and recliners. Shop in store or online and save. But hurry, limited time only. Save up to 40% off a huge range of indoor furniture. On now at Domain. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the newly transformed Melrose Events. As the masters of school events and functions, our grand ballroom boasts one of Melbourne's largest dance floors. From Year 12 graduations to valedictory dinners and debutante balls, we can host 100 to 800 guests in either banquet or cocktail-style settings. Located in Melbourne's north, Melrose Events is perfect for your school celebrations. Call us today on 9330 1422 or visit melroseevents.com.au. Hi, it's Jackie Felgate. This Friday on 3AW Drive, I'll be joined by the expert travel team at Luxury Escapes to uncover the world's best holiday destinations. Together, we'll discover all the insider tips and tricks to get the most out of your holiday. Where to stay, how to get there, what to eat, expert recommendations, and more. With Luxury Escapes, experience more inclusion, more value and more expertise. Visit luxuryescapes.com to get more from your next holiday.
Gardening on 3AW thanks to Garden World. Your online nursery is at gardenworld.com.au.
Marcia, good morning.
Oh, good morning to you guys. I hope you're well. That's good. I've had some problems with fruit trees this year. The citrus trees have been fine and have had fruit. The apricot, plum and cherry trees have had flowers but no fruit. And one of them, the peach tree, had some fruit initially, but the apricot's no fruit at all. They've been fertilised, they've been well watered, and it's very annoying.
Very annoying, Marsha. Stone fruit can do what's called, they have an off year, so they're a biennial cropper. So every second year, often you'll get a bumper crop with those ones. So it sounds like you've done everything right. Hopefully that's all it is, and next year you'll have a lovely crop.
Thanks, Marcia. That is it for Gardening Heidi. Bandloons
That's it for
open.
2024.
Yes, where's that
Yeah,
for?
I know.
You have a great Christmas too.
I will. And yes, we are open all weekend, right up till Christmas, and we're also open Boxing Day. So if you'd like a little cool break in our air-conditioned cafe, come in for a mimosa, little Boxing Day mimosa cocktail.
That's a good idea, but
Yeah.
closed Christmas Day, the
Closed
one day of the
Christmas
year.
Day, yeah.
Guess what? I'm staying here. I've got my hour back, 8 till
Oh.
9. Bit Christmasy next. Anything you need that you can't find, calls.
Miss something? Click on audio and hear it all at 3aw.com.au. Melbourne's 3AW 693.
15 degrees in Melbourne. Light showers today, a top of 22. It's 8 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Eddie Summerfield. Firefighters are continuing to battle an out-of-control blaze in the Grampians. Kiara Parker reports.
An emergency warning remains in place for Belfield Settlement, Flat Rock Crossing, Fynes Creek, Grampians Junction and Halls Gap. Residents were told yesterday to leave immediately and it's still not safe to return. Relief centres have been set up at Stawell and Ararat. Hundreds of firefighters are working on the blaze, which has grown to more than 28,000 hectares in size and has reached Lake Belfield. Authorities warn this fire could burn for weeks, with crews working to consolidate containment lines ahead of increased fire danger on Boxing Day when the weather heats up. At the State Control Centre, Kiara Parker, 9 News.
There's been another firebombing in Melbourne, this time a stolen car believed to have been reversed into a Springvale restaurant at around 3:30 this morning. Meantime, investigations are continuing into a fire in Coburg after a car was rammed into a factory. The Corruption Watchdog has expanded an investigation into a group of Royal Melbourne Hospital surgeons. It's claimed they have been fraudulently billing work cover and private health insurers. The Age reporting the Corruption Watchdog is looking into fraud involving the billing of work cover as well as privately insured patients who get surgery in public hospitals. A memorial of toys, candles and flowers is growing at the site of a German Christmas market. A 50-year-old man remains in custody after ramming a car into a busy crowd, killing at least 5 people, including a young child. More than 200 other people are injured, with dozens in critical conditions. Intelligent Risks Chief Executive Neil Fergus telling Today the motive behind the attack is puzzling.
He's actually been described as the authorities as an Islamophobe, and he's posted things on social media criticising Germany's migration policy, allowing people into the country who are devout Muslims and changing the character of the country. It's one of the most bizarre terrorist attacks in memory.
The Pope has urged the Vatican to stop gossiping in his annual Christmas speech. The Pontiff called gossip an evil that destroys social life, telling his clergy to say good things about one another. Also making news, all references to Australia Day will be removed under a pay deal being negotiated with staff at the city of Greater Bendigo. And Joe Biden has signed off on a bill avoiding a US government shutdown. Checking finance, and $1 Aussie is buying 62.5 US cents.
With the 3AW app, you have the power of 3AW in the palm of your hand. So add it to your phone now. Melbourne's own 3AW.
Nathan McSweeney says he's devastated after being dropped for the Boxing Day test. Dan Constance will debut at the NCG after the 19-year-old was called into the squad. It wasn't an ideal night in the Big Bash for Constance, who was dismissed for a third ball duck as his Sydney Thunder lost on the final ball of the night to the crosstown rivals, the Sixers, in an absolute thriller. It was Ben DeWishers who hits the winning run after hitting a six on the penultimate ball of the game.
It's short, he pushes the single, and they're going to get home far too easily. The Sixers win off the final ball. Benny Dorsus, 20 from 8, steers the Sixers home.
3 this morning. Anyone with information about the fire is asked to contact police. To sport, and Melbourne Victory has played out a 1-1 draw with local rivals Melbourne City in their A-League men's soccer clash at Amy Park. Jonathan Cohen scored for City in the 16th minute before Roderick Miranda equalised for Melbourne Victory in the second half. The match was the first in charge for Victory interim coach Arthur Dillers after the shock departure of Patrick Kisnorbo. Dillers says he's proud of the playing group after a challenging week.
They definitely dealt with everything very professionally, hence why you get a performance like that. When situations like this happen, it can go, one or two ways. It can be a complete disaster, or it can be a disciplined performance, a togetherness that they showed, and I think they did that quite well.
Elsewhere, Western United had a 4-0 away win over Auckland FC, and Perth Glory won 1-0 over Brisbane Roar. To the weather now. There's a strong wind warning for the Bay's West Coast and Central Coast. For the state, partly cloudy with scattered showers developing in the southwest during the afternoon, then extending to remaining southern and mountain districts at night. For Melbourne, partly cloudy, the high chance of showers most likely this evening with a top today of 22 degrees. Tomorrow a shower or two, 18. Christmas Eve a possible morning shower and 21. It's currently 15 degrees. ABC News.
You're invited to the party of the year this New Year's Eve across the ABC.
Are you ready to count it down?
You'll have a front row seat to the unmissable New Year's Eve concert live from the Sydney Harbour stage, featuring some of the biggest names in music. Plus, 2 fireworks spectaculars, audio described on ABC Local Radio. Celebrate New Year on ABC TV and iView, ABC Local Radio, and the ABC Listen app.
Macca's on the radio. Crocodiles and roos, blokes along the Nullarbor tune in for the news. Someone in the Kimberley, someone down at Hay. Someone with a yarn or two phones from Byron Bay. All of Ulladulla wish the listeners well. Tales of droughts, of drenchings. There's so much to tell. Here's a bit of folklore wrapped up in a song. Tourists in the territory like to sing along. Voices on a Sunday from the far outback. Bulls and Barramundi, Birdsville's dusty track. Cheerful women chatting, putting in their call. Macca's on the airwaves.
There's a radio show with a bloke that you know.
No matter how you see it, we'll see it all on the line when Australia take on India in the NRMA Insurance Boxing Day test. MCG December 26 to 30, and you need to see it live. Search cricket tickets.
Weather. Miss the show? Click on audio and catch up at 3aw.com.au.
Grown Uni-Trend. Get anything done with Airtasker.
Where can your dollars take you this Christmas? Another novelty mug for your collection? Snooze. A candle that smells like festive pine. Original? Not. But at Bevilles, your dollars take you straight to Sparkletown. Because this Christmas, we've got 50% off a huge selection of diamonds, silver and gold. All yours at half the price. Why waste your money when you can wear diamonds? Visit Bevilles today and look like $1 million for way less.
Looking for a better-for-you bubbly beverage this summer? H2 Coco's new 100% real fruit sparkling H2 juice range comes in a variety of mouth-watering flavours, including lychee, passion fruit, watermelon and pink guava. All natural and made with real fruit with an added dose of vitamin C. Get your fizzy fix the natural way. Find H2 Coco's sparkling H2 juice range at Ampol petrol stations.
At Bunnings Trade, we're making it easier for tradies to get the job done before Christmas with extended trading hours in select stores. Plus, we're open every day except Christmas Day to help you get what you need. Visit our website to check your local store's trading hours. Bunnings Trade, helping business is our trade.
The Australian Open hits different, and opening week is your chance to hit it before anyone else. January 6th to 11th. Search AO25 tickets.
Here's Melbourne traffic.
G'day there, cruiser on TV earlier, fire in Springvale Road southbound between Lightwood Road and Windsor Avenue. The left-hand lane closed, speeds down to 40, and give it a miss and take Westall Road. Looking at goods on the major freeways, clear, quiet and civil in around the CBD as well. Harris Scarf Friends, 20 to 50% off Stillway sale ends tomorrow. Save 50% off cookware by Tefal and Scanpan. Conditions apply. Harris Scarf, great brand, great prices. The Kiss Cast partly cloudy with a few late showers and a top of 22 on the way. First with Kiss traffic and weather together.
Escape for an unforgettable Gold Coast holiday with a bigger and better Village Roadshow Escape Pass. Now with 5 days unlimited entry to 3 theme parks. Visit themeparks.com.au.
Kiss 1011.
Victorian Fireys battling an out-of-control blaze. Hi, I'm Harris Preen.
Your news now.
Yeah, intense bushfires are raging in parts of Victoria this morning. A blaze in the Grampians National Park burning at emergency level. Watch and act warnings to the south and southeast of the area. Residents in several towns ordered to evacuate. Overseas, a German city is in mourning over the deaths of at least 5 people, including a 9-year-old. More than 200 others have been injured, 40 in critical conditions after a man drove his vehicle into a crowded Christmas market. A 50-year-old Saudi national has been arrested and expected to be charged with murder and attempted murder. Well, good news for travellers. The federal government set to announce plans to force airlines to dish out full refunds for cancelled or heavily delayed flights. Under the proposal, if your flight is more than 3 hours late, you can rebook at no extra cost. And Robbie Williams is set to rock the Sydney Opera House on New Year's Eve. The pop star will then entertain Melbourne for a Q&A gala event, chatting about his biopic, Better Man, which lands in theatres on Boxing Day. Sports check in a sec.
Play Hot Shots Tennis. Book your kids a free trial at a participating club. Hit up hotshots.tennis.com.
You and for me. God's love motivated that giving. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes our motives for giving can be all over the map, right? Sometimes we give because we love someone and we want to do that. Sometimes we give because of obligation. Well, they gave me a gift, so I've got to give them a gift. But they gave me one last year, and I wonder if they're going to do that again this year. And oh no, if I don't, right, I might get embarrassed and my reputation and all that thing. So we can have impure motives. We can even give gifts to win favor, to try to bring people on side with us. You know, God's motive was pure. It was all about love. He loved the world. He loved the world because he created the world. He created humanity. And humanity actually went a different way than God wanted them to. Not than what he expected, but than what his perfect desire would have been. But when humanity did that, God never stopped loving. You know, if you're a parent today, you can understand that a little bit. If you have a kid who's done stuff that has even broken your heart, likely you still didn't stop loving. And that's what God did. His motive for giving was love. Matthew chapter 7 verse 11 says, if you sinful people, that's everybody on the planet, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Heavenly Father give good gifts to those who ask him? Now, Christmas, it's all about Jesus, but the celebrations that we do, it's really kind of about the kids, right? We celebrated a bit with extended family and things, and it was all about the kids. The kids had fun. The adults were hard to get along with and stuff. Anyway, I'm joking, really, promise. But the kids, it's all about the kids, and they're having so much fun. And we try to give good gifts to the kids. Even if you don't have kids, if you're around kids, you want to see kids at Christmas because they light up. It is exciting. We try to give them good gifts. God is a better gift giver than us, he says here. He says, even though you try really hard and you give them good gifts, how much more so does your Heavenly Father give good gifts? See, he loved us so much that he gave. That motive ensures us that his gift will not disappoint us. Let's look back at John 3 again. It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. God's gift was a sacrifice. That makes it precious. It was costly. It was the most costly gift ever given. What's the most costly gift you have ever given? Was it costly financially? Maybe it cost you some time and energy, and that's the way you displayed your love and your motive for giving through that giving, and it cost you something. If a gift costs you something, there's a difference than an obligatory thing where you just did a token gift. It costs something. And it says here that it was God's one and only son. And I thought about that this week, and first time I ever thought about this, it's like...
Di Radio SBS, grazie per aver scelto di trascorrere assieme a noi questa domenica prenatalizia. Io sono Dario Castaldo e vi accompagnerò attraverso i contenuti del programma di oggi, che dopo l'aggiornamento delle notizie dall'Australia e
perish. We were on our way to perishing.
Very positive note. Back to...
On him in the last.
Yeah, he was quite good at Colac. He, it was the race there was run at a really solid tempo, and he
كما قلت لقاء وزير الخارجية التركية الذي هو هنا في دمشق حقان فيدان. سنواكب منذ ساعة الصباح الأولى غدا هذا اللقاء الذي سيكون في قصر الشعب في جبل قاس.
Yourself, say hi, say what your job is, and be flirty with the victims. And they too, you're checking on them, trying to be like a friend. So you say something like, how was your day? How is your kids? Because in some cases, some of the people we communicated with, most of them actually were married. And third day, you start talking about what you like, you talk about your hobbies regularly, and you slide it in. You mentioned at one point that I'm also interested in crypto investment, and that investment made me so rich. I'm so thankful for that investment. And you continue the conversation afterwards as if nothing happened, just to get into the minds of the victims to think that, what is this crypto thing? How did you get very rich off of it? Can you explain it to me more? So that was basically the story.
How many people have they got on the go at once?
I think the estimate is, once you think about how many buildings there are in this particular compound, and then how many people there are on each floor, say 7 or 8 floors, they work out it could be around 30 to 40,000 victims going at once.
This operation is very, 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 very massive. They're paying hundreds of people to be scammers.
And so, what did you do?
Well, I didn't have much of a choice, because going back is a no-no to me, because at that time I've been in for 3 I didn't pay for food, I didn't pay for internet or nothing, so I felt very wrong to go back. I was actually like pissed because I've been looking for 3 months at that point for a job, and I ended up finding a scam instead of a job. But I was pissed because that's not who I am.
So you had a close look at this scam factory. The obvious question arises, do they ever target Australia?
Well, yes. The scammers can switch between countries. Evan's particular scam was targeting South America at the time. But somewhere else in the building, there was a WhatsApp chat that was starting with an Australian who was based in Hong Kong. And his name is Murray Sargent. And so all of a sudden he gets this WhatsApp chat message. He gets an alert from someone named Jenny.
Her name was Jenny Ying.
Jenny says, hey, are you interested in earning, some quick money?
And I think she said something along the lines of, with COVID and everything else that's going on the planet at the moment, there's an easy way for you to work offline and make some money. Are you interested? It was as simple as that.
And all you need to do, you need to go onto YouTube, subscribe to a certain channel, take a screenshot.
And once you sent back the picture of your subscription on the YouTube site, they would send you $30.
And so he did that for a series of sites, and he was getting money back. He was getting money back into his account. He thought, sweet, this is easy money, this is a quick win. Murray was in a pretty vulnerable spot at the time that he got these messages. He was unemployed. He'd previously been this high-flying corporate guy. He'd led companies, software companies.
I just separated recently at that point from my wife, so it was a pretty emotional moment in my life, and I just felt very isolated. And I became obsessed with trying to win.
Jenny all of a sudden slips in, hey, do you want to take things up a notch? There's someone called Janice the receptionist over on Telegram.
She was very subtle about how she transferred me across to Telegram. She just said, look, if you're really interested in continuing on this process, I'll introduce you to Janice, who's on Telegram, and she's called Janice the receptionist, and she really manages all of our clients globally.
Janice the receptionist starts sort of stepping him through how to do certain tasks in order to get money. So it's about investing in crypto.
As we went through the cryptocurrency trading process later, as the scam developed, the individual trades became quite complicated.
On this website, you put your money in and you can see on the screen a whole lot of charts. You have a credit score. You can sort of see everything moving around with the more money that you put in. Murray thinks this is great, So he starts putting in quite large sums, sometimes, in the thousands, and starting to get into the 20,000s. And then all of a sudden, with doing the crypto trades, he starts making mistakes.
You had to do the trade within 1 minute. If you made a mistake, that was really what they were setting up. So each time you made a mistake, your credit score on the website went down. And in order to get your credit score back, you had to pay them credit money or risk money. And with the mistakes and the pressure that they put you under, it became very stressful very, very quickly.
What kind of mistakes?
So it was just minor mistakes. He kind of describes it as the trades. So he makes mistakes on the trades.
And I would spend hours practicing the trade, but it didn't matter how many times I practiced, there would be a mistake somewhere. And so I'd have to compensate the credit score. All in all, I basically had $1 million in this trading account, Australian.
Whoa, $1 million that he can't rake back.
He wasn't sure what mistakes he was making because he really focused on it.
And I knew something wasn't right, and but I wanted to try and get my money back. Even thinking about it and even going back over this like I am with you now, is I just couldn't believe how naive I was and how silly I was that I went down this path. I mean, I'm a pretty competitive person, and I think I almost saw this as a game. I started asking them all sorts of questions about where they were headquartered. They were headquartered in New York. What's the name of their company? It was called Golden Financial Services Investments. I asked them where they were located. They told me they were in the US. They gave me an address of their headquarters in New York. I googled the address and I rang the doorman at the address, which was an office building in New York, in Manhattan, asking for that company, Golden Financial Services. He told me no company existed. Whoa, so the penny drops.
Exactly.
I felt physically ill at that point, just physically drained. What does he do next?
He doesn't know what to do next. He didn't tell anyone. He was quite embarrassed about it. Often these syndicates are operating different types of scams at once. So there's the pig butchering, romance, Annie from Ukraine type scams.
I'm never going to get pig butchering out of my mind now, that's it.
But there's that kind of pig butchering scam, and then there's these investment scams, which are really sort of that task-based type scam. Small task, oh, I see a success rate here, I'm going to keep going with this. And then they start sliding it in. And so those scams are really the ones that are building up right now. You know, someone posing as a financial advisor. So Evan is part of the same scam syndicate that's conning Murray out of his money. Evan's in a different part of the syndicate pretending to be Annie from Ukraine, right? And he's angry. He's angry at what he's witnessing around him, and he's really starting to think, what am I going to do about this?
I didn't know where to go. I wanted to contact the authorities, but I also didn't know who is the proper authorities to reach, because police are very, 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 very far away from the place.
Is Dubai a country like Australia where you can go to the police and feel relatively comfortable that they're not going to behave in a corrupt fashion?
I think Evan wasn't sure, and he ended up thinking, okay, you know, he's a young guy, right? So he pretty much does what any young person might do, and he turned to YouTube.
Of course.
So you're quite popular as kind of vigilantes, YouTube creator vigilantes online that will expose them. They hack into the system. They kind of pretend to be victims on the other line, and they're actually watching the scammer in action. Evan loved those videos.
When I was about 16, 17, I was watching about a lot of other people who do scam baiting or scam exposing.
In Southwest Delhi,
He thinks of one particular guy who he's binged every single video of.
agency, except that it's just a front for a scamming business.
I was watching a lot Jim Browning.
My name is Jim Browning, or at least that's what I put onto YouTube. It isn't my real name. And what I do is I am termed a scam baiter, which is somebody who goes after scammers, and I disrupt and expose their scams.
He fights back against robocall scams and tracks frauds across the world.
Can you turn your computer off as soon as you possibly can, please?
He's not a detective, he's not a cybersecurity professional, but he is a tech-savvy engineer who's been turning the tables on robocallers and scammers.
Scammers really annoy me, and that is my primary motivation. I can try and figure out the weak spots of a scam, and that means I can possibly reverse that scam. Evan reached out to me through a platform called Discord, and I always treat those sorts of approaches with a bit of skepticism. You know, is this guy really working where he says he works? I could verify his location because on the computer's wireless networks, you can pretty much pinpoint the position where that computer is.
So Jim gets Evan to run a command on about 8 of the PCs, right? The ones that Evan has direct access to. And that way, Jim can watch exactly what the scammers are doing.
I could see each of their computers, so I could kind of do a little running total of what the volumes were like. So there were definitely in excess of 1,000 people working in that sort of scam.
The people who are operating these syndicates are really, really dangerous. You know, it is organized crime.
So my instructions to him was basically, once you've run this, stay as safe and quiet as you can.
Jim's concerned about Evan's safety because he knows the kind of operation that Evan's in.
The scammers would live and work in those buildings, and because the security was quite tight, they would typically take the passports away from the people who were running the scams, and it would be quite an ordeal to get those passports back. It was almost slavery, modern slavery. I have no idea what these people are capable of, and I've got to assume the worst.
He was always concerned about my safety, so he always told me that if you feel like something is dangerous, if you feel like something is happening, you leave at any moment. You don't have to care about what I want.
And so Jim and Evan sort of started messaging each other. Evan sent a few things through to Jim, and he kept sending through videos as well. Jim could then verify these. So Evan's taking a huge risk here. I mean, he could have left, right? But he stayed in instead.
I decided to fuck it. I'm gonna risk it all. If this scam is going to be exposed for the people, and people would understand how it works, how to avoid it, how to spot this scam, to warn someone else of it, I would consider that a win. I would consider that I did something right, even if it's going to kill me. I would do that. I convinced myself to not worry, to be as calm as possible, because if I'm not calm, I would be nervous. Being nervous would lead to mistakes, and that would not end up very well on this kind of scams. They would most definitely kill me. They would risk a single person life to keep a large operation that had thousands of people attached to it, and thousands of people would go to jail and get in a lot of trouble if it got exposed.
So he's really gone from being in a position of vulnerability where he doesn't have many other employment options, but he finds this so anathema that he decides to blow it up.
Exactly. And it's pretty brave when you think about it, but when I've talked to him about it as well, he doesn't overcomplicate it in his head. To him, he walked into a scam. I don't like scams. I'm going to do something about it.
So what's happened to Murray and his $1 million while all this is going on?
Well, now it gets really interesting. So Evan had already started working with Jim Browning, the YouTuber, to expose the scam. Now, over in Hong Kong, Murray was trying to work out how to get his money back. Eventually, he ends up telling a family friend, and that friend gives him the name of someone in Australia, a private investigator.
So my name's Ken Gamble. I'm a cybercrime investigator.
Ken's team, they trace an IP address. Guess where it lands?
Dubai.
Absolutely, that's it. And the first name that springs to mind for Ken is Jim Browning.
And Ken thinks, hey, I might flick this over and see whether he's ever seen it before.
Exactly.
I knew that he was monitoring a group in Dubai.
So he shoots him an email.
One of his clients had lost a considerable amount of money, and they had traced an IP address to Dubai.
And Jim writes back,
So that's the group I'm monitoring. And it was one of those moments where it was like, okay, well, this is pretty amazing. It was the same group.
Wow.
The same location. And Ken says, wow, that's amazing.
So total serendipity.
Total serendipity. Ocean's 11, it really had the whole thing to it. It was like Jim and Ken couldn't believe that they were working and tracing this back to the same source.
At the same time.
At the same time. So at this stage, Jim jumps on a Zoom call with Ken and starts sharing the screen of what he can see.
You could see the scammer actually talking to all these different men, pretending to be a beautiful Spanish model, and we could see the scams literally happening in real time before our eyes on the screen.
I mean, has anyone knocked on the door of the compound?
Oh yeah, Ken's team went there, and they're taking all the photos and they were verifying it with the videos and footage that Evan had sent over. It was the same location.
We started, building up all this evidence and information, and we decided to take it to the Dubai police.
So Ken's team present this case and they say, hey, we think we found this scam syndicate operating outside your city. And this is our victim, who's lost 1 million Australian dollars. They showed the Financial Crimes Police that the scam syndicate was operated by Chinese nationals, and they were using a virtual company known as Gold Investment Financial Group. This virtual company had Hong Kong bank accounts that were being used to launder victims' money, and they specifically employed people who weren't from the United Arab Emirates, so people like Evan. These workers lived and worked on the compound and were only allowed to leave with permission from senior Chinese employees. But even with all this evidence that Ken's team were presenting to the Dubai police, the screenshots, the videos, the statements, they were missing one thing.
Well, they said that our client needed to file a formal complaint.
They say that Murray needs to get a legal document put together by a lawyer in Dubai.
But these lawyers were asking for like $30,000-40,000 US, and unfortunately, our client didn't have the money. He'd been cleaned out of 100% of his savings.
So Murray felt like I'm getting scammed again, you know.
Oh, God.
But Ken Gamble thought, you know, we've put together this brief of evidence for you about this syndicate operating. He thought that there would be some kind of investigation into that.
We expected to get a follow-up email or, you know, just some sort of communication, but they fell silent. They never contacted us again.
Nothing?
Nothing. Ken's team came back to Australia. They've heard nothing. It's been months.
Wow.
All the while, Jim's been sitting there quietly watching all the scams taking place.
One particular weekend towards the end of November 2023, the computers were switched off as normal, and when they should have come up on the Monday morning, they just didn't.
It just went dark.
Completely. Absolutely nothing.
And so we don't know what happened?
We don't know what happened. Ken doesn't know what happened. Jim doesn't know. Murray doesn't know.
And we still don't know why. We weren't told that there was a raid, if there was a raid. But it may have been that, for example, they were tipped off. We just don't know. And that was the end of the story.
That's really where, you know, what Ken and Jim could observe has ended. They have no idea what's happened. So we went to the Dubai police to find out.
And what did they say?
Well, I called and emailed them. I even tried the Dubai consulate in Australia, and so far, no official response. I did recently see some footage on social media, though, of what looked like a raid on the scam compound. Evan confirmed that it is the building where he worked, and you can see the Dubai police in the video. There are loads of people sitting on the ground outside the buildings with their hands behind their backs. We've tried to check this out as much as possible, and it does appear to be the building, but we can't determine exactly when this raid happened.
And what happened to Evan?
Evan had gotten out well and truly before all of this investigation between Ken and Jim and all of that had started. That was really important for Jim to make sure that Evan was well and truly clear of everything, so there was no risk to him, so he was safe. The way Ken sees it, this isn't just a problem for authorities in Dubai. Australia also has a big part to play in pushing overseas authorities to clean up scams taking place in their countries.
Authorities need to do more proactive enforcement in relation to the criminal organisations that are targeting our country. There is a lot of technology available now that could also have a huge impact on scams, but we're not doing that in this country. Now we've heard federal politicians say on national television during press conferences, we are going to go after these people. Well, you know, we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen...
Who said that?
That was Stephen Judge.
So I reached out to the Minister for Financial Services and the Assistant Treasurer, Stephen Jones, to hear what he had to say.
What did he have to say?
In a statement, he said that before last year, there was no coordinated effort by government and industry to take on these, quote, malicious criminals. But since 2023, the National Anti-Scam Centre has been set up, ASIC's scam website takedown service has been funded, and they'll soon legislate mandatory industry codes. The Minister also said that these measures are working. Scam losses have started to go down for the first time since 2016. And that's even though the overall number of scams being reported has increased, so the overall money being lost has gone down. But the Minister acknowledges there is still more to do. As for Evan, he just wants people to think about who might be behind those calls and texts that look like scams.
And just remember that at the end of the line, there's probably a person who didn't have a choice but to work in this line of work, to scam people in order to live and survive and help their families. They do this because it's work. That's about it.
In the next episode, it was perhaps the most notorious prank call in Australian history. Two radio hosts pose as royalty that obtain private medical information about none other than the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton. but no one was laughing when the nurse who picked up the call took her own life.
And I'm like, I'm not that. I'm not a killer. I didn't kill that nurse.
A fresh look at one of the most infamous incidents in Australian radio history, and who else might be to blame. That's in the next episode of Notorious. Background Briefing's sound producers are Lila Schooner and Ingrid Wagner, sound engineering by Anne-Marie de Bettencourt, fact-checking by Tynan King. The reporter for this story was Gina McEwen. Our supervising producer is Mario Christodoulou, the executive producer is Fanu Falali, and I'm Linton Besser. You can subscribe to Background Briefing on the ABC Listen app. Thanks for listening.
That episode of Background Briefing was first broadcast on the 9th of June 2024. Julian Morrow with you on Radio National. Coming up, Ugandan musician and opposition leader Bobi Wine. The documentary film Bobi Wine, the People's President, depicts the transformation of Ugandan musician Robert Kyagulanyi, better known as Bobi Wine, from music star into a politician, member of parliament and presidential candidate running against the incumbent President Museveni, who's ruled Uganda since 1986. The doco about Bobi Wine's brave struggle against political repression in Uganda was nominated for an Oscar in 2024, and I spoke with Bobi Wine during his visit to the United States in February.
Thank you very much for having me.
Bobi, the documentary covers the 2021 elections, which weren't free or fair and were characterised by violence and repression. The official result of those elections was that you got 35% of the presidential vote and your National Unity Party holds about 10% of the seats in the National Parliament. It's now 2024. Could you give us an overview of the political situation in Uganda in 2024?
First of all, to set record straight, I did not lose that election, and it's not true that I got 35%. According to empirical evidence that we have, we won that election even by the statistics of the Electoral Commission, which were, rigged and doctored. Still, we won General Museveni, so we won that election. However, we were not allowed to swear in, and General Museveni forcefully took over. The crackdown continues to the present day, where not only were my supporters and campaign team arrested during the elections, and many of them still continue to languish in prison, the crackdown continues to the present day.
You yourself have been subject to intermittent house arrest. What is the state of your political movement in 2024, Bobi?
We continue to struggle for equality, for democracy, and for the rule of law, and for respect for human rights. Of course, like you mentioned, I have also been arrested, beaten, and tortured, but this continues on other people that are less popular and less known, and have less media attention than myself. So it continues, and we continue to resist it.
It seems likely that the next elections in 2026 are not going to be any more free or fair than the unfair elections of 2021. Is there a viable pathway to a change of government in Uganda through the rigged political process?
It is true that there's no guarantee that the next elections, which are meant to be in 2026, are going to be any free or any fair, because it is the same General Museveni that is in charge of our country. It is the same police, same military, and same electoral commission. However, we are sure that it can be different if the international community puts its feet down and says it's not going to be part of the criminality. If the international community ceases to sponsor the regime, puts conditions on its collaboration with Uganda, which condition, among others, we've been asking for respect for democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Those should be preconditions for cooperation with Uganda, and I'm sure if the international community puts its foot down, then the situation will change in Uganda.
How much of a factor do you think international support for President Museveni's regime has been in terms of the longevity of his rule?
I'll say, for example, the United States alone gives up to $1 billion to General Museveni, which money is used in patronage and, of course, subjugation of the population. If that is stopped, that alone, then so much can happen. In the past, there has been suspension of trade and suspension of loans to Uganda due to gross human rights violations, especially. So we want the international community to be as assertive as when they suspended aid to Uganda, and this pushed the regime to reconsider its human rights situation.
Yes, you've branded President Museveni America's favourite African strongman, but at the end of October in 2023, the US President announced an intention to end Uganda's participation in one of its trade programs, and the US has also censured Uganda over its recently passed anti-homosexuality law. Do you welcome those moves, and do you think that they're sufficient?
I welcome every move that seeks to call the regime in Uganda to order. Do I think they're sufficient? I don't think so. I think much more assertive measures need to be put in place, including disassociation and isolation of the regime. When other dictators do what General Museveni is doing, people like Saddam Hussein and others, Mugabe inclusive, you know, there are more stringent measures that are put in place. We hope to see the same even this time around.
If the system remains as rigged as it is, how would you see change coming to Uganda, Bobby?
The regime, the system will not stay as it is, especially if we do what we must do. We know that the apartheid regime was strong and well supported internationally, but when it was exposed thoroughly in a film that exposed the segregation during the apartheid regime in South Africa, this pushed not only for the release of Nelson Mandela, but also for the first free and fair elections in South Africa. So we strongly believe that with the efforts to reach out to the international community and to expose what is happening back home, we will succeed in weakening the regime. We will succeed in pushing them to respect the rule of law and to do what is morally right. And we believe that if what is morally right is done in Uganda, then we would be home and dry.
On our end, we're speaking with Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, who's the leader of the National Unity Party, Uganda's main opposition party. And Bobby, there's no doubt that through the documentary film, Bobi Wine, the People's President, the profile of the situation in Uganda has grown. Has the international success of the film about you had any observable impact within Uganda?
Oh yes, it has had a lot of observable impact in Uganda. For example, ever since that film came out, the regime has been cautious in its brutal crackdown on us. But again, when the film was nominated for an Academy Award, an Oscar to be precise, then it has given us more or less a new lease of life. We feel more confident that the regime is hesitant to crack down on us or eliminate us because they know that the world is watching in Uganda. So this film, its nomination into the Oscars and the attention that comes with it has given us another level of safety and guarantee of life. Not that we have a guarantee of life, but at least we know that now that there's more attention of the international community, then the regime would hesitate to eliminate us like it usually does.
Bobby, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about your background, because obviously you rose to prominence as a musician and you've had great success in that field, but we learned from the documentary about how you made the decision to come into politics, but I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about it in your own words.
I'm a musician, not was, but I'm still a musician. I still make music. Although my music is banned in Uganda and is punishable, sometimes by abduction, prison, or even extrajudicial killing if one is found listening to my music. publicly, but they do listen to it. I was not in politics initially, but there's this one time when I was attacked and humiliated by a young man who was equally around my age group, but because I was driving a brand new car, I got slapped and assaulted and a gun pulled on my face. So that, for me, communicated to me that I was not safe as I thought I was, and I was not safe unless everybody else was. That caused me to start actively speaking out against all injustices and all evils. However, 10 years later, this happened when I was about 25. So 10 years later, when I'm 35, I saw that speaking about it in my music alone was not enough. I had to rise to the occasion and take a seat on a more formal platform to address these issues. Therefore, running for Member of Parliament, therefore winning, and the rest is history. Here I am.
One of the things that really comes through from the film is the extraordinary impact that the repression has on your supporters, obviously on you as well, but also on your family and your children. Could you tell us a little bit about those impacts?
Yeah, it has in many ways disturbed me, almost disoriented me, because one of the hardest things, one of my hardest moments is to look in the faces of the families of the many victims, the many comrades that have been killed, that are missing, those that are in prison. And I always feel like it's my responsibility having led these people to a struggle that has cost them their freedom, at least in the meantime. But I'm always encouraged by their families that constantly stand with us and encourage me not to give up. Of course, it has had a toll on my family, that my children are many times traumatized. I have a little daughter who makes me promise that I will come back home safe and sound. Of course, I promised, but many times I failed to make it owing to the regime crackdown. So yeah, it has had a mega toll on me and my family, but you know, the goodness of the pudding is in the eating.
Bobby, one thing you do seem to be able to do fairly regularly is to travel internationally. Are there any signs that President Museveni's regime may restrict your ability to travel?
Thank you. For now, I can travel in and out of the country, although a few times I'm arrested at the airport when I return, but I still have my passport, therefore I still travel. However, some time ago, General Museveni's minister for Constitution or for Justice and Constitutional Affairs mentioned that he intends to move a motion that restricts me, that slaps a travel ban on me, because according to him, I was exposing the country and killing its investment opportunity.
On our end, we're speaking with Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine. Bobby's the leader of the National Unity Party, which is now the biggest opposition party in Uganda's parliament. After a successful career in music, Bobby is now the most prominent opponent of the regime of President Museveni, who's ruled Uganda since 1986. 38 years is a long time for anyone to stay in any position, and President Museveni is now very old. There is some commentary, it seems, on the possibility that his son may take over power. Could you give us your sense of what indications President Museveni has for a succession plan?
Well, I would say that General Museveni is not only planning to install his son as president, but the plans are already in advanced stages of him imposing his son as a ruler of Uganda, thereby effectively turning the Republic of Uganda into a monarch. We resist it, we continue to speak against it, and we mention without hesitation that it is unconstitutional. Our constitution, as it is in Uganda, forbids any serving military officer from involving in active politics. However, General Museveni's son is excluded, is above the law, just like it is usually the case that always the ruling family is always above the law.
Do you have a sense of the character of the president's son? Would you prefer, for example, to confront him in an election than the incumbent?
Well, I would say that General Museveni's son has the complete disregard of the law. He has threatened journalists, he has insulted women, and he commands the elite, the paramilitary force, which is responsible for the abduction and torture of political opponents of General Museveni. He publicly confessed and bragged about torturing a world-renowned author, Kakweza Rukirabasaija, who disagreed with him. So that's the kind of person that seeks to succeed his father. We strongly believe that he's many more times worse than his father, General Museveni.
I wonder, to what extent is it possible for you and your party and your allies to prepare for the possibility, remote as it may seem, of taking over government? You know, you're clearly willing to lead, but do you feel ready to lead?
We are definitely ready to lead, but most importantly, we are ready for our freedom. You know, we are ready for our freedom, and it is not just us, but we are working with many other forces of change. We are working closely with the former opposition leader, Dr. Kizza Besigye, who challenged General Museveni 4 times. We are working with the leaders, with the religious leaders and cultural leaders. We are also working with civil society organizations. So we are a whole collaboration of different walks of life that seek to chart a new path for our country.
How much time do you get for music these days, Bobby?
I rarely get time for music, but music being part of me and, you know, more of a hobby than a vocation, where I do music as a way of relaxing. And glad enough, in that relaxing or that leisure, I get to release songs that also add on the value of our struggle.
Yes, because I was wondering, obviously it was such an important part of you. Is there a sense of loss? Obviously a voluntary thing because you've chosen to make this political commitment, but do you still feel the loss of the simpler, probably more enjoyable life of being a full-time and successful musician?
That's true. Actually, as a matter of fact, I feel so much at loss. Yes, my entry in politics came with so much love, so much acceptance, but above all, it came along with the much desired growth, going through a series of growth, the process that I wouldn't have gotten from anything else. But yes, it has also taken one valuable thing from me, and that's my freedom. The freedom to be vulnerable, the freedom to laugh carelessly, and the freedom to be an ordinary human being. I don't regret it. This is a calling that I believe if I did not respond to the way I did, I would never forgive myself.
One of the striking things about Uganda's demographics is what a young population the people of Uganda are. I think the average age is under 16. You obviously have a lot of support amongst Ugandan youth, but I wonder if you could speak to us also about what the current regime does to try and prevent young people from seeking political change.
It's very true. We are the second youngest country in the world. 45 million, but 85% of which is under the age of 35, and having 85% never having seen another leader is one big factor. In Uganda, there's nothing but fear for the young people because the regime has not had any plan. Many of us feel like we are a product of the failure of the regime. So the regime has nothing but to be scared of the young people. The regime has resolved to deal with this generation militarily and with absolute violence. Ever since the failure to hoodwink them and to intimidate them, now is abductions, and murder. Basically, the regime back in Uganda has decided to send chills down the spines of young people, to send fear. So they use fear and terror to curb resistance.
Well, Bobby, it's been great speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us on RN.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Robert Chagulani, also known as Bobby Wine, who's the leader of the National Unity Party, the biggest opposition party in Uganda's parliament. And of course, after a successful music career, Bobby is now the most prominent opponent of the regime of President Museveni, who's been ruling Uganda since 1986. Bobby Wine was our guest on Sunday Extra in February. Coming up after the 9 o'clock news, Western Australia's Australian of the Year, Michelle Turvey, is our guest on The Year That Made Me. And from 9:30, Take Me to Your Leader looks at North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. I'm Julian Morrow. Thanks for listening.
It's the $368 billion submarine project that continues to divide the country.
This is the sort of mad conspiracy that you read about in crazy books.
And there are still so many questions to be answered about AUKUS. That is where we hope to come in. I'm Hamish McDonald. I'm Geraldine Dew. And in a special summer series of Global Roaming, we're bringing together all the key players to give you some answers.
Scott Morrison, Malcolm Turnbull, Jonathan Lee.
AUKUS Investigated every Saturday at 8:30 on Radio National, anytime on the ABC Listen app.
Sounds like relaxing. And a great audiobook on the ABC Listen app with a new range of titles like The Eternal Hopefulness of Richard Glover's Best Wishes.
For left upon boarding, you've been chosen to fly the plane.
And The Thankless Art of Being Correct. Kitty Flanagan's 488 Rules for Life.
Even I admit that 488 is a lot of rules.
Stream these and more great audiobooks for free. Sounds like summer on the ABC Listen app.
ABC News with Mary McDonald. Good morning. An emergency warning remains in place for an out-of-control bushfire burning in Victoria's Grampians region, which has now grown to more than 34,000 hectares. The communities of Halls Gap, Belfield Settlement, Flat Rock Crossing, Fyans Creek and Grampians Junction are being told the safest option is to leave now. Hundreds of firefighters have been working hard to build containment lines around the blaze, which is expected to burn for weeks. The CFA's Deputy Chief Officer Gary Cook says so far today's conditions on the fire front have been favourable.
But there will be southerly winds of some strength across the fireground again today that will put pressure back on all of those edges. So it's a pretty dynamic situation. It's a big fire. There's a lot of unburnt fuel in the Grampians still, so it's quite a challenge for the days ahead.
The Weather Bureau's senior forecaster Angus Hines says while the conditions are calmer at this stage, there's no sign of rain.
A dry, sunny day, so no help in the form of incoming rainfall, which is probably the number one thing which you would want at this stage to help squash the flames and stop the spread. But we're not really seeing much of that, not just today, but really in the forecast ahead.
Another earthquake has struck Vanuatu as aftershocks continue to rock the Pacific nation following Tuesday's deadly quake that left at least 12 people dead. Ali Crew reports. A magnitude 6.1 earthquake struck 30 kilometres from the capital Port Vila in the early hours of this morning in the vicinity of last week's quake. Tuesday's magnitude 7.3 quake struck off the main island, toppling concrete buildings in the capital and setting off landslides. Damage to infrastructure hampered water supplies and knocked out communication networks. Australian humanitarian supplies have arrived in Vanuatu. A ban on commercial flights has now been lifted. A minute's silence has been observed at Christmas markets across Germany to pay tribute to the victims of a car attack in the eastern city of Magdeburg. 5 people were killed and more than 200 injured when a car was driven at high speed through a crowded market. Authorities have arrested a 50-year-old man in the wake of the attack and say he was acting alone. These people at a memorial service in Magdeburg say they're shocked by the attack.
You can't put it into words or even understand it. That's why we're here,
to express our sympathy to the relatives who have lost people.
Es ist from the tiefe Narbe, ja. It's a deep scar, but we have to be together despite everything, and we have to try to hold back from what could be made of it.
The social media app TikTok is set to be shut down in Albania for at least a year over concerns about bullying and violence. The BBC's Danny Aberhard reports.
For Prime Minister Edi Rama, restrictions aren't enough. There will be no TikTok in the Republic of Albania, he declared, following a national consultation with teachers and parents to improve child safety. It follows the stabbing of a 14-year-old boy last month, one of a number of school killings or stabbings this year. The boy was caught up in a dispute allegedly played out on social media. TikTok has told the BBC it had found no evidence that the person who allegedly stabbed the 14-year-old or the victim himself had TikTok accounts. It also said it's seeking urgent clarifications from the Albanian government about the proposed ban.
To sport, the Melbourne victory. Melbourne City men's A-League derby has ended in a thrilling 1-1 draw last night. Melbourne victory is third on the ladder, while City is fourth. Melbourne United is hopeful of snapping its 3-game NBL losing streak when it hosts Tasmania tomorrow night. With 8 rounds remaining in the regular season, United sits second on the ladder ahead of its open-air clash against the reigning champions. Meanwhile, the Jack Jumpers are on a roll, winning 5 straight. Melbourne coach Dean Vickerman says there's work to do if they want to make the finals.
Haven't defended at a high level, this last little period, but part of it's our system, and not implementing it well enough and adhering to it well enough, and part of it's a little bit of, injuries and the players that we've had out also.
To the weather now, and there's a strong wind warning for the Bay's west coast and central coast. For the state, partly cloudy with scattered showers developing in the southwest during the afternoon, then extending to remaining southern and mountain districts at night. Isolated thunderstorms in the far southeast later. Mostly dry and partly cloudy across the north. Light to moderate southwesterly winds. For Melbourne, partly cloudy. The high chance of showers most likely this evening, with a top today of 22 degrees. Tomorrow a shower or two, 18. Christmas Eve, a possible morning shower, 21. Mostly sunny on Christmas Day, 30. Boxing Day sunny and a top of 38 degrees then. Right now in Melbourne, it's 16 degrees. ABC News.
ABC Radio National.
Listen live and listen later on the ABC Listen app.
Hello, this is Julian Morrow with you on Radio National. Over the next 5 weeks at this time, we're going to bring you some of the interviews from our weekly segment on Sunday Extra, The Year That Made Me, where we ask our guests to nominate a year of particular significance in their lives and a song. This week, our guest is Michelle Turvey, who was West Australia's Australian of the Year in 2024. And after that, we've got Take Me to Your Leader with Hamish MacDonald, that delves into the lives and motives of world leaders from dictators to democratic internationalists. Today, it's definitely a case of the former, as Hamish